UFC, PFL, CFL, MLB. We got all the abbreviations and we got all the props to get you ready to turn a profit for this weekend. Welcome to Props and Parlays Today. I'm Andy from WagerTalk.com. Being joined as always by my fellow prop master, Andrew McGinnis from WagerTalk.com. Just because there's no NHL, no NBA, no NFL doesn't mean we don't have ways to make money off of these props. So let's start with UFC here real quick, Andrew. UFC 303. Boy, how livid would you be if you bought tickets a long time ago to see Conor McGregor fight? We have one fight that features two fighters that were not originally in the original fight. But we've got some props here that we can talk about. I'll start first here. I'll start with the first fight of the night, the prop over 2.5. It's only minus 105 with Ricky Simone and Vinicius Oliveira. I love this one. Ricky Simone's path to victory is chain wrestle all 3 rounds, and I think that's what he's going to do. Vinicius Oliveira is a big-time power puncher. Not great fight IQ. Actually terrible fight IQ. And I think Ricky Simone he's got 2 losses, and he needs to pick up this win to avoid the dreaded 3rd loss in a row because that puts you into cut territory. There's no ifs, ands, buts about it. The advantage is Ricky Simone's takedown. Oliveira has shown terrible takedown defense in the past. I think this is just a humbling fight for Vinicius Oliveira, and I think Ricky Simone takes the path of least resistance, chain wrestles, holds him down, beats him up on the ground. I'm pretty surprised minus 105 is the price on over 2.5 rounds on this one. I think Ricky Simone grinds out a pretty decisive victory here. What's a prop you've had your eye on for UFC 303?
I've got my eye on one of the bigger fights. I guess people are kind of waiting to see what Ian Garry can do against a decent opponent, as he kind of has worked his way into the UFC. They've kind of given him a pretty good pathway here, Andy, into the UFC. He's had some decent fights recently here. But look, I like the fight to go the distance, which is pretty chalk at minus 190. So I'll take it a step further and take Ian to win by decision at plus 140, 145, depending on where you're shopping around there. Look, I feel like people don't give him enough credit for his technique and his style of fighting. I feel like it might not be the most exciting, for a guy that wants to be compared to McGregor so bad all the time. He's not really that guy that's going to go out there in 10 seconds and knock somebody out. He has a 75% takedown success rate. He has really good percentage of significant strikes per minute. Venom Page, to me, is a very similar fighter as well. You're going to see him use his length, use his reach, try and touch up, try and play for points. But I think the biggest difference in this fight is going to be Ian Garry trying to bring this fight to the ground. If he can do that, I think he will be successful, and we can get this fight to the distance. This is one of those fights to me where they try and, build up some smack talk in the presser. We see 2 guys that, Venom Page has such a good record. I mean, what he's done in the past is so impressive, but I feel like Ian Garry is kind of an opponent that's tough for him. So I feel like this is one of those matchups where everybody's excited to watch it, but it ends up being kind of a chess match in there and nobody's throwing haymakers. As much as I would love to see it, as much as I'd love to see both these guys go for it, Andy, I kind of feel like this is going to be it's not going to live up to the hype whatsoever of the fight that you want this one to be. I feel like these guys are very careful. I feel like they protect their distances. They're playing for points. But like I said, the biggest difference will be Ian Garry getting this one to the ground. So that's one that I do like here. The fight to go the distance, it's minus 190. I might throw that on as a parlay leg. But I do think that plus 140, 145 for Ian Garry to win via points is a pretty good one here in this fight. What's your take on that fight as far as the matchup is concerned? I feel like with a short favorite there, Ian Garry, people are looking at Page and seeing what he's done in the past, but I still think it's a pretty decent matchup for Ian Garry.
Over 2.5. Fight goes the distance. I mean, they couldn't even do an intense stare, a face-off. And then in the back, there's Michael Venom Page, hugging Ian Garry's kid, and they're give me a break. This fight has no shot of being finished. These guys aren't finishers with their styles. Not when they fight each other. When they fight, when they're fighting guys of lesser caliber, they can get the finish. Ian Garry's not finishing Michael Page, and Michael Page isn't finishing Ian Garry. So I agree with you that Gary is probably the rightful pick. I just have I agree with you. Whoever you think is going to win, just take him to win by decision. Save the money. Like Ian Gary's not going to choke out Michael Page because Page fights with that weird style where he jumps in and jumps out, and you're going to see a weird flying knee and maybe some spinning thing or whatever. And Gary's going to. I don't see a whole lot of intensity from these guys coming, so I like the over in that one for sure. I would like to play Roman Dolidze by decision. This is the fight I was talking about where originally it was Jamal Hill versus Khalil Roundtree. Now it's Anthony Smith versus Roman Dolidze. These two fighters could not be more different from the original two fighters in more ways than one. And it's just a very odd matchup here. You got Anthony Smith who jumped in to try and face Carlos Ulberg because he saw real holes in Ulberg's game, and now he's fighting Dolidze, who knows Anthony Smith's tricks. He knows these clinches and these takedowns, and he knows what Anthony Smith is going to try and do with the grappling. And Anthony Smith has a problem with his striking defense. He gets pieced up, especially if he doesn't, get the early finish. But Dolidze, man, he's fighting up a weight class. It's short notice. It's a really great paycheck for him. And I think Anthony Smith would not. I don't think Anthony Smith wants this fight. He took the fight with Ulberg for a reason, just like he took the fight with Vitor Petrino for a reason. He knew he could beat those guys. He knew that they had massive holes in their game. Now he's getting a grizzly veteran who's not going to do dumb things like, Dolidze isn't going to put his neck into a guillotine like Vitor Petrino did against Anthony Smith. He's not just going to gift you that one. At the same time, Smith is tough. I don't think Dolidze has got the power to knock out Smith. I think Dolidze wins on the feet, but I can save some money here. It's minus 148 for Dolidze to win. I'll just take him to win by decision. So that's one that I've got my eye on as well. Any other props you like in UFC?
I feel like I kind of have to mention something in the main event. I feel like it's fun. I will say, though, no joke, Andy, both of the other fights that you mentioned there, the first one of the night and that last one you said, I agree with both those plays. I was looking at that one as well. The fan in me, I will say, not that anybody cares about who I'm cheering for, but I really like Anthony Smith. But to me, he has to win, I think, by submission or get something going early on for him to win that fight. I think the longer it goes, the more it doesn't really benefit him as much. But I think that if you look at the Pereira and Prohaska fight, I want to bet on round 2 to start. And so there's over 1.5, and you can take round 2 to start, which is a little bit more chalky. But you take a look at the last fight, the last meeting between these two guys. And first of all, I got to respect the amount of fights that Alex Pereira has been fighting in recently. This guy has been an absolute animal for the UFC. A pure company man, Andy. This guy's always willing to go every 3 or 4 months, it seems like. But it seems to me that, the strategy here for Yuri is going to be more so keeping his space, because I think that he's got the leg kicks. He's not scared to go on the inside, but really Pereira has that one big shot. He's really just kind of stands in there with you. It's pretty much straight up. He's not bending his knees at all. He's not really low, not much head movement. He just backs you down. The leg kicks are going to be very important. I feel like Yuri is going to get his shots in early. But as you saw in the last time these guys fought here, we saw Yuri kind of expose himself too early, use a lot of his energy early on, gain momentum a little bit, and then the second 1 or 2 shots landed on him, it seemed like it was almost over. So I'm not saying necessarily that it benefits Yuri for the longer this fight goes, but I am saying he might be a little more tentative to start this fight off. So with that being said, I do think we get out of round 1. I do think over 1.5 rounds is a good bet, but I will be betting on round 2 to start in the main event this Saturday.
I like it. Last one I'm going to bring up is Jillian Robertson to win by finish, by KO or submission. It's plus 180. This is how Jillian Robertson wins. Like her last 5 fights, she's all won by finish. And they've been on the ground, either by ground and pound or by submission. She's fighting Michelle Waterson Gomez, who is 38 years old. She's 1-7. Like in her last 8 fights, or I think maybe it's 1-6. Whatever. It's a terrible record. She has no ground game. Jillian Robertson doesn't have a great striking game, but it's gotten better in her last fight. She's working on it. But the real issue here is Waterson Gomez just not having enough volume and not having enough power to scare Robertson on the feet and to fend off the takedowns. Robertson's going to get this on the ground, and when she gets it on the ground, it's her world. So you're getting plus 180 to finish someone who, I mean, this has to be a potential retirement fight for Michelle Waterson. How can you be 1-6 in your last 7 fights and not at least be, talked about in this one? So you've got the youth advantage that goes to Jillian Robertson. You've got the big time ground game advantage. And when you just go down the list of her last wins, Andrew, I'll just go through her wins here. Against Polyana Viena, win, KO. Against Pereira Rodriguez, win, submission. Against Agapova, win, submission. Against Cachoeira, win, submission. Courtney Casey, win, submission. Sarah Froda, KO. Veronica Hardy, submission. Molly McCann, submission. Emily Whitmire, submission. Like when she wins, it's always by finish. So when it goes to decision, that's when she loses. And I just don't see this fight going the distance. So Jillian Robertson at that plus money, yeah, count me in absolutely on that one. So any other UFC props, Andrew, or you want to move on to CFL?
That's it for me. The rest are going to be best bets at WagerTalk.com for the clients. I do have 2 4% plays. Last week I was involved with the UFC. I had 2 plus money plays, went 1-1 on those, and I cashed the 4% play there with Whitaker. That was a hell of a finish,
Easy.
hell of a fight there for Whitaker.
Easy win.
That was nice.
Call.
That was nice. Yeah, had Volkov, but then had another tough one. That's the best part about underdogs in the UFC, man. If you release 2 plus 200s, you watch one guy just get knocked out right in front of you. You just gotta hope the next guy gets the job done for you. The best part about those two. Betting underdogs. But no, Andy, that's it. Rest for clients this weekend. Looking forward to a great weekend of UFC, though.
Well, let's move to CFL. I have yet to use any of these CFL money lines and parlays, and I'm glad I haven't. These games are a lot more close than last year. So let's talk a little bit of props and see if we can find the best props. What do you have your eye on for this week?
Well, I like to always start with tonight, Friday night football here, Toronto versus Montreal. Both teams undefeated on the season. Toronto has had a bye week, so they have played fewer games. But I'll tell you what, there was a lot of concern, Andy, about their quarterback situation going into this season. Of course, Chad Kelly out for 9 games being suspended. Cameron Dukes at quarterback there for Toronto. He has the long ball in his pocket, but he's mostly a dink and dunk, dump it off type of guy, very accurate type of quarterback. But the defense, to me, has been what's letting them down. The second and long, yes, that's right, not third and long. The second and long defense has been brutal for this Toronto Argonauts team. And you take a look at their numbers right now in passing yards allowed per game. They're at 323 yards allowed per game through the air. They have played the BC Lions, where they allowed Vernon Adams Jr. to put up 363 yards on them. And then McLeod Bethel Thompson put up 342 yards on them. And that's not good whatsoever. You've got this total that's pretty high as well tonight. I'm going to take a look at Cody Fajardo, quarterback for the Montreal Alouettes, over 292.5 passing yards. For passing yards, I've actually mostly bet unders this year. This is one I like quite a bit. And one thing good about this bet is the Montreal defense is great. They'll create stops. They'll put them in good positions. But one thing about the offense, I feel like part of this has to be because of how strong the defense is. It gives them the comfortability to do this. This Montreal team loves taking shots downfield. They're kind of like BC, very similar to the old-fashioned Winnipeg. They don't know what a 5-yard pass is. They're allergic to throwing a check down, Andy. This team loves throwing the ball deep. So when you've given up over 330 yards in both games, the number is 292.5 for tonight, Friday night football, excuse me. I really do like that one. There was one more that I liked here, and it's involved in the Hamilton and Ottawa game that goes on Sunday. We're going to take a look at Jalen Acklin over 50.5 receiving yards for the Ottawa Red Blacks. When I take a look right now at this Hamilton team and kind of what they're doing defensively, it is the most embarrassing thing you can imagine for the start of their season. People were wondering, is Bo Levi Mitchell healthy? Is he too old? Does he have the arm strength? Well, it doesn't matter if he has the arm strength if your defense is giving up 30 points a game. They've played 3 games this year, 30 points, 33 points, and 32 points. To me, that means it's a good opportunity to bet on some receivers. And Jalen Acklin, to me, is a good guy that will get going for the Red Blacks this weekend. The Red Blacks are off a loss against a tough Montreal team, but I thought they looked better than the score sheet indicated. But I also like the motivation factor. You come off a game where you get your ass kicked, you get to go back at home, Andy, and play the team that gives up 30 points a week. I see it as a pretty good opportunity to bet on some props in the CFL here this weekend. If you like betting overs and you like receiving props, this is probably a good one. We'll go Jalen Acklin over 50.5 receiving yards.
I love that one. Love it. Yeah, it's been. What's your take on CFL season so far? I think it's been good. I think it's been from a watching perspective, but not great for betting. I just cannot get a great read on it. What's your take so far early in the season?
I mean, people should just be betting underdogs and then just not even watching the games. Just go out, have a good time, go to steak dinner, and come home. Because right now, I mean, I can't hit a favorite, and I've hit some bets that were underdogs, but I'm about dead even on my CFL season. Last night, I had BC minus the points as a free play and a client play. We had a miscue on the snap for a field goal, so that resulted in a fumble. It didn't get the field goal off. And then they fumbled on the 3-yard line to lose the ball after they had a 6-minute drive down the field, and they end up winning by a field goal. So they cost me 10 points on turnovers. The underdogs are doing really well. That's what I will say, honestly, Andy, is that the market not appreciating and respecting these underdogs as much. Yeah, you've got some teams that are kind of taking over a little bit, though. The top dogs like BC, top dog in the East being Montreal. But something worth mentioning, these bad teams are covering point spreads, and the good teams aren't necessarily covering point spreads. So that's kind of where it comes into play, Andy, with the teasers and the moneyline parlays, where it's like, hey, do you want just this team just to win? Like the Argos last week against the Elks, like the BC Lions last week against the Elks. That could be something for you to use, Andy, because right now this Elks team, they're 3-1 ATS. They're 4-0 if you count closing line ATS, but they're 0-4 straight up. So the underdogs are covering. They're just not winning games.
Wow. I got some. I can do some PFL props here real quick. I can. Let's talk about the Kai Kamaka and Pedro Carvalho fight. Kai Kamaka is a minus 520. Pedro Carvalho, his chin might be gone. He's been knocked out early in his last 2 fights. You could take the under 2.5 at minus 125. PFL goes off tonight, so I would be interested in that. I would also be interested in this Gabriel Braga versus Bubba Jenkins fight under 2.5. You can get that at plus 120. I'm interested in that one because Bubba Jenkins is a wrestler, and for some reason, Andrew, last fight he decided to come out and show off his striking chops. Bad idea. He lost handily. And he's kind of eliminated from the playoffs. So he's going to have to try and go for a super early finish. He doesn't have a best cardio. And I think he's either going to get to early finish or he's just going to get really tired. And Braga has the huge advantage on the feet and the strikes. I'm really surprised about this 2.5. You can get the under at plus 120. Those are my favorite. Those are my favorite ones. I really don't understand the plus 120. I get the feeling that the books aren't really taking into account the like the points system in PFL. You really have to pay attention to how the points work. Like you have to understand that Bubba Jenkins needs a first round finish. Otherwise the fight means nothing. It doesn't matter if he wins or loses. He's got to win in the first round. And if he doesn't, then his cardio is just completely gone. and we saw him not wrestle in the last one. So I don't understand what we have going on with that one. So those are a couple props in the PFL. I've got a all weekend pack that's up right now. We've got PFL and UFC in there as well, and we have a lacrosse play back off the break in the PLL. So take advantage of that. All plays starting tonight will be included in that pack. Run a 15-9 run in MMA, #1 in lacrosse this season, having great years in all those sports. So it's just one pack. All those plays are in there. Andy Lang at WagerTalk.com. Andrew, I know you mentioned you got some UFC plays. What else do you have going on at WagerTalk for this weekend?
A great special I have going right now, Andy, over at WagerTalk.com is an MLB and CFL through the All-Star break special. That's $139 to get every single CFL play, every single MLB play that I release. It includes sides, totals, team totals, prop bets. I'm on a 5-0 MLB prop run, putting that one on the line tonight. Do have a 3% MLB prop going tonight, so looking forward to that. But of course, you can grab those 3 days, you can grab those 7 days, but I do invite people for $139 to join me. Go long distance here. Go a little bit of the distance and grab all the plays I've released. That way you get on them. And as you know, Andy, these CFL lines, they move like crazy. So you want to get those the second that they hit your email. I'm going to give away kind of a hint, and this is going to be, you still have to be selective, so I'm not scared to give these away here. And I think I might have talked about this before, but one thing I've been doing in the MLB, and it's not like it's been every play, but one thing I've really noticed, Andy, is you can look at, if you go on certain websites, you go on StatMuse, you go on RotoWire, look at the teams that strike out the most. So you've got the Mariners, Athletics, Red Sox, Rockies, Pirates, Rays, Cubs, Reds, Brewers, and Tigers. Those are the top 10 teams in strikeouts per game, okay? Strikeouts in 2024. If you look at the pitcher that's going against them, the number is always overinflated because, they're playing the Mariners. They strike out all the time. They're playing the Athletics. They're going to strike out a lot. They're playing the Angels, whoever it might be. And tonight with Drew Thorpe, I'm taking him under 4.5 strikeouts. I'm getting a plus 125 for price on this. This guy is not a strikeout pitcher. He does not go deep into games. He walks guys. He's a ground ball pitcher. He gives 2, 3, maybe 4 exactly strikeouts per game. And because he's playing a weaker team in the Rockies, we're seeing a really nice plus 125 price. And that's one thing I've been trying to aim for with these MLB props, is getting the plus money. So when you look at these guys, make sure you're not just doing the simple read of saying, okay, this team strikes out a lot, so I'm going to bet against them and take the over on Ks. A lot of times it's quite the opposite. I mean, you take the teams that don't strike out very often, you're going to get better value really on those numbers. I think a lot of people have kind of caught up to the fact the St. Louis Cardinals, Andy, they do not strike out a ton. So what does that mean? The pitchers going up against them, I've seen lines of 3.5 Ks. They're going to go over that. Even if this team has a really good day at the plate, the Cardinals are still going to strike out probably a handful of times. So tonight we're going to go Drew Thorpe under 4.5 Ks at plus 125 for our baseball play of the day.
Love it. Love it. Before we get out of here, I will throw out one WNBA play. Diana Taurasi over 15.5 points. It's kind of it's an odd streak, Andrew, but her last 5 home games against LA, she's had 19, 30, 19, 22, and 31. She just torches the LA Sparks at home, and her total is at 15.5. So it goes back a couple seasons, but she's gone over this total in 4 out of her last 6 home games. She's gone over in 3 out of her last 5 games here, and she's coming off a really bad performance where she only had 7 points. So I don't expect that to continue. So Diana Taurasi, let's see if we can continue the streak on her home points against the LA Sparks here. One last thing, Andrew, before you get out of here, I haven't had a chance to talk to you about how the NHL ended. What do you think about Edmonton, the Oilers? What's the future look like for those guys after coming up short?
What's the future look like? Well, they said they're not going to be re-signing their GM, which was a little bit surprising. I thought he took them to the Stanley Cup, but apparently he wasn't really making all the shots or calling all the shots there anyway. One thing I don't like about the NHL right now, and I probably should have known this in the first place, like back in my mind, I kind of did. So Andy, free agency is July 1st. Free agency is Canada Day. And so these guys finished playing like a week ago, less than a week ago, and a lot of these guys aren't going to be re-signed. Like I'm hearing rumors that Aaron Ekblad might not be brought back to play with the Florida Panthers. Leon Draisaitl is already saying, oh yeah, best fans in the world, but I'm going to talk to my agent about what my plans are for my next contract. People are already putting odds out for Leon Draisaitl's next team. I couldn't imagine him not playing on the Edmonton Oilers. But my overall thoughts, look, I think that in the Stanley Cup final, it proved that you have to lose once to win it. You have to go through it to win it. The Capitals went through it. They didn't lose in the finals, but they lost in the conference finals. Then they finally won. And Sidney Crosby, Nathan McKinnon, all these guys go through tough times before they can win one. Hopefully McDavid's back there and does win one eventually. But it goes to show what did the Stanley Cup final really teach us is that it's okay to bet prop unders. And if you bet prop unders, you had a lot of success near the end. And it's funny, Andy, because I feel like in the first round, the prop overs are great. Like everyone's firing every shot on net. There's a lot of power play points. And then everything just completely tightens up in the final round.
Yeah, it was. You're right. Draisaitl on another team. I can't wrap my head around it. I just can't. So, yeah, I was happy to end my NHL season on a winning note, and it was, of course, taking it under. It was Barkov to not have an assist. It pretty much summed up my hockey season, which is root for something to not happen. So, yeah, I'm pretty excited for NHL to get back. But yeah, some of the free agency moves are just it's going to struggle to wrap your head around some of these guys. Yeah, Barkov not being on Florida. I don't even want to think about some of that stuff. But with new free agency moves, it opens up new opportunities in the props market. So, all right, guys, that's going to do it for us. Please hit the like button, leave us a comment, tell us what you like for this weekend. A really good card in MLB, PFL, UFC, and CFL as well. Plenty of opportunities to take advantage of the markets there. Go grab Andrew's plays at WagerTalk.com. Myself, WT.buzz/AL. Good luck on all your plays, and we will see everyone next time on Props and Parlays Today.